Think about your workday for a second. From that first login in the morning to the very last email you shoot off at night, it's all powered by tech, right? So today, we're going to break down the modern professional's tech toolkit. You know, the absolute must-have hardware and software that make the modern workplace, well, work.
Okay, let's be real. Emails are pouring in. Chat messages are pinging left and right. You've got like a dozen different apps all screaming for your attention. Sound familiar? If your job ever feels like a crazy digital juggling act, trust me, you are not alone.
So, how do we make sense of all this chaos? Well, we're going to follow a day in the life of a modern professional. Let's just call them Alex. By watching the tools they use from sunrise to sunset, we'll get a super clear picture of the tech that really makes today's workplace tick. All right, first things first, the digital foundation. I mean, before Alex can even think about tackling projects or hopping on a call, the basic building blocks, the hardware and the software, have to be ready to go.
Yeah, remember those huge, bulky desktop computers chained to a desk? Those days are pretty much over. Now the real office workhorse is a super versatile laptop or one of those cool convertible devices. For Alex, this is literally the physical foundation of their work. It's powerful, it's portable, and it's ready to go wherever they go.
So, what's the magic that makes that shiny laptop actually, work? It all comes down to the operating system, or OS for short. The best way to think about it is like the brain of the computer. It's the core software that manages everything, and I mean everything. It's what gives you that graphical user interface, all the icons and windows and menus you're clicking on all day long.
So, Alex's laptop is probably running one of the big three operating systems. First up, you've got the classic PC running Windows. This is the market leader. We're talking about 75% of all users, and it runs pretty much any software you can throw at it. Then there's the Mac, with its macOS. You know the one. It's famous for how smoothly it works with your iPhone and iPad. And fun fact, it can even run Windows if you need it to. And last but not least, the Chromebook. These are super lightweight and all about the cloud. But there's a catch. They can't run those big, full-powered desktop applications.
And just like any other software, your OS has a name, right? Like Windows, and then a version number, like 10 or 11. Now, keeping this updated is so important. It's not just about getting cool new features, it's about getting critical security patches to keep you safe. The good news? Most devices are already set up to handle all these updates for you, automatically. Phew! Okay, so the laptop's on, coffee's brewed. For Alex, the day kicks off by diving straight into the morning rush. And that means one thing: mastering the art of modern communication.
And what's the first hurdle of the day? Yep, you guessed it, the inbox. It's a monster. To keep from drowning, pros like Alex use what's called a triage process. It's pretty simple, actually. Step 1, find and deal with the most important emails right away. Step 2, tackle the ones that are urgent but maybe a little less critical. And Step 3, file everything else to handle later. What's the end game? That beautiful mythical creature, an empty, or at least organized, inbox.
But, just being fast isn't enough. You've got to be professional. And that brings us to something called netiquette, or, internet etiquette. The rules are actually pretty simple, but super important. Treat people online just like you would in person. Please avoid using all caps, because it really does feel like you're shouting. Always, always, always reread your messages to check for typos and, more importantly, for tone. And here's a great rule of thumb. Write every email as if it could one day be made public. Oh, and of course, if you're pulling stuff from the web, give credit where it's due.
But that morning communication blitz, it's way more than just email. Internally, you've got those instant chat platforms like Slack or Microsoft Teams for all that quick back and forth. And then externally, you're seeing more and more AI-powered tools like this chatbot right here. These things can answer customer questions and solve problems before a human ever has to step in. Pretty wild. Okay, the morning communication storm has been weathered. Now Alex can finally shift gears and dive into some deep project work in the afternoon. And this is where a whole new set of tools comes into play, all about working smarter, not harder, with a little help from AI.
Now, when I say work tools, you probably don't think of social media first, right? You might even think of it as a distraction, but it's actually become a really powerful business tool. I'm talking about platforms like LinkedIn. They're not just essential for Alex's own personal networking anymore. The company relies on it for finding new talent, for connecting with partners, and for just getting their brand name out there.
And speaking of AI, it's pretty much already a hidden teammate in the software Alex is using every single day. You might not even notice it. For example, in Excel, you can literally just type a question in plain English and it'll analyze your data for you. In Outlook, it'll suggest the perfect time to send an email to a colleague in a different time zone so it lands at the top of their inbox. And this one's my favorite. Word and Teams can now automatically transcribe an entire meeting, and it even knows who is speaking. That is a game changer.
So, what's the big deal with all this AI stuff? Well, the potential impact is just massive. Get this. A recent Forbes survey found that almost 3/4, that's nearly 75%, of business leaders believe AI will make workers at least twice as productive by the year 2035. Think about that. That's not just a small change. That's a complete transformation of how we even think about work.
All right, so Alex's work isn't just happening at a desk. The next part of the day is all about connecting with the outside world. And that means tackling two pretty common tasks: planning a business trip and ordering some new equipment. And both of those things fall under this big umbrella term you've definitely heard of: e-commerce. But we're not just talking about late-night personal shopping here. In the professional world, the most common type is business-to-business, or B2B. This is the engine that powers everything from ordering basic office supplies to purchasing massive company-wide software packages.
So, for that business trip, Alex has a really smart two-step process. First, they use what are called aggregators. These are sites like Kayak or Skyscanner that search tons of other sites all at once to find the absolute best prices on flights, hotels, you name it. Then, once everything's booked, they switch to an accumulator. This is a tool like TripIt that magically sucks up all your different confirmation emails and spits out one single beautiful, organized itinerary. So much easier.
Okay, but traveling for work has a big risk attached to it: security. Think about it. That free Wi-Fi at the airport or coffee shop. It's a public network, which means your data is basically out in the open, making you super vulnerable. And that's exactly why a virtual private network, or VPN, is an absolute must-have. What it does is encrypt your entire internet connection. It basically creates a secure, private tunnel for your data to travel through, keeping all that sensitive company info safe from anyone trying to snoop.
All right, as Alex's workday starts to wrap up, we're going to shift our focus. We've looked at the tools of today, but now let's take a little glimpse into the office of tomorrow. Let's talk about the cool new tech that's just starting to change the way we all work. First on that list is the Internet of Things, or IoT. It sounds complicated, but the idea is simple. It's a giant network of everyday physical objects that have sensors in them and are connected to the internet. The scope of this is just huge. We're talking about everything from smart thermostats in the office that save energy, to high-tech security cameras that can recognize faces, all the way to fully automated systems on a factory floor. And finally, let's talk about extended reality, or XR. Now, this is kind of a catch-all term for all that immersive tech like virtual reality, VR, and augmented reality, AR. And no, it's not just for video games anymore. Businesses are using this for some incredibly practical stuff. Imagine training new employees in a perfectly safe virtual environment where they can make mistakes without real consequences. Or think about an architect being able to literally walk through a digital model of a building before a single brick has been laid. That's the power of XR.
So, from Alex's simple laptop in the morning, all the way to the super connected, intelligent office of the future, one thing is crystal clear. Technology is completely changing the very nature of our work. And that leaves us with one last and maybe most important question to think about. As all this tech gets better and better at automating the routine parts of our jobs, what then becomes our most valuable human skill at work?